Hello to everyone. Thank you all for joining me at this time. My name is Shavi Zane, and at this time I'm coming on to have a discussion with you all, specifically for those of you who find yourself at a crossroads in your life. Um, and this is in regards to your purpose, okay? Now, I've done some readings in the past in regards to what are your gifts and how can you build on those gifts, and also how to awaken those gifts or what is blocking your gifts. But at this time, I want to speak specifically on those of you who you're currently at a position, whether it's your own business, whether you're at a 9 to 5, whatever the case may be, a specific career path that you might have been on for a number of years. But now you've come to a space where you realize that it's not what you were put here to do. You realize that you're no longer passionate about it. Your heart is no longer in it, or is not in alignment with your spiritual path and those things that you have come into knowledge of as you continue to evolve at this time. So this message is specifically for you all. So I want to first start off by, I did speak a little bit in the past in regards to my specific journey and how I came to be here where I am today. I spoke about it in a live reading that I had done, and many of you did not get a chance to see the live, but they took it down because I spoke on some other things that, apparently the powers that were do not want to be exposed. And so now I want to express it again, because it is in alignment with what we're going to be discussing today. And I will also be pulling the cards as well to get a little bit more specific in terms of what you can do about this, okay? So real quickly, I just want to tell you all a little bit about how I came to be where I am in terms of my calling. And so I'd say about 2.5 years ago, about a little bit over 3 years ago, I began my spiritual path, okay? I began to awaken to who I am. Probably close to 4 years now. I'm probably, but either way, I began to awaken to the fact that I was being led down a different path. And one of the first things that I prayed for was wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Because at that time, I understood that that was far more valuable than asking for anything that was on the surface in terms of material wise. I wanted to be able to see things and to understand things from a higher perspective. And so I prayed for that. And many different changes began to happen in my life, okay? I started doing a lot of healing. A lot of things that I had been suppressing began to come up. But I noticed that changes were not only happening inside of me, but they was also a mirror reflection of what was beginning to happen external. And so, after I said that prayer, it's like the Most High knew that, okay, this is your time to awaken. This is the time that I need you to, get up out of that slumber, get up out of that comfort zone that you're in, and it's time for you to do something different. Now, at that time, I had been working as a registered nurse. I did that for 5.5 years. And I was already kind of on a limbo, kind of on the fence in terms of, as I continued down my spiritual path, I started to see things about that particular field that it made me uncomfortable. And I knew that in order for me to continue to grow, I was going to be taken down a different path away from that career. Either that, or I was going to stagnate and box in my spiritual understanding in order to stay comfortable for material gain. So it's like I had a choice. You never lose your free will. You always have a choice. So I knew I had a choice, but apparently my calling was much greater. And so the Most High kept good on his word. When I asked for it, I received it. And life catapulted me out of a crazy marriage, out of, a home that I had for myself and my children. Everything shifted. I'm talking about I went from, working as a registered nurse, making X amount of money, doing pretty well for myself, but not really able to save anything, But at the same time, I was catapulted to pretty much having absolutely nothing and living on the couch, okay? Staying with a relative at the time, okay? And things were very questionable. But one thing that I never lost was my faith, okay? I knew that in that moment, everything was shifting for a reason. This could not be by chance. There was no way that what I was dealing with was just happening by chance. I understood because I was receiving too many synchronicities. Prior to this even happening, every single time I went to go look at a clock, it's digital clocks everywhere, whether it was walking into the kitchen to go and get a snack at 1 o'clock in the morning and the clock is saying 1:11, or waking up randomly to go use the bathroom and the clock is saying 2:22. I was getting so many synchronicities that was showing me, random animals, wild animals that would come around. And it was like, something is shifting here. I'm being shown that there is something greater outside of what I've been accustomed to on the surface, from those things that I've seen on the surface of life. Because you get up, you go to work, you have your 9 to 5 or whatever your hours are, and you get so caught up in the material realm. You get so caught up in the schedule, the routine, and being, and having time being compartmentalized where everything is on a schedule. And so when you veer off of that schedule, the only thing you're concerned about is what you're going to do next and how you're going to get back on track. And so you lose you miss out on all of those opportunities to see things from a spiritual perspective. And so at that time, I was being shown all of these things. And so when I ended up leaving, I left one state and came to another where I'm currently at. And I lost my ID. I lost my driver's license and my state ID. I had no identification. And my intentions when I moved was to come to this particular state and to have my license, my nurse's license transferred over and to start working. But when I got here, about a month later, COVID happened. And so I was like, okay, wait a minute. Things are really shifting here. This is not no coincidence. I knew at that point it was bigger. But things happened. The family member's house that I was staying at, they told me that me and my children, we had to leave. And they claim it was because the landlord was complaining about us. I have a lot of small children. And so we ended up staying in a motel, and at that time it wasn't nothing nice because I had no income. And the family member, they said they could only do but so much. And so I was amongst prostitutes and pimps and people that was on drugs and all types of things. But I made the best of my circumstances, and I knew it was like every day I still found a way to wake up and smile. I was not in a space where I was bitter. I was not in a space where I was angry. I felt like it was my opportunity to continue to give praise and to give thanks. And that's exactly what I did. I never missed a beat. Of course I had nights where I cried and I grieved the life that I was walking away from, or that I was being removed from. Because that's a natural reaction. I had been removed from a very bad marriage. I had to leave behind my oldest son with his father. My other 5 children are by, the bad marriage. Okay. And so it was one of those situations where life had shifted so much that, I was grieving all of these changes that was happening. But at the same time, as much as I could have focused in on all of the losses that I was taking at that time, what could have been seen as losses. But instead, I had already understood the mind. I had already gained a clear understanding of how the mind works and how what you focus on, you create. And so I made a decision that my thoughts would be geared towards those things that I could be thankful for. And so I stayed amongst nature. I stayed of course, in prayer and giving thanks and gratitude. And, I began, the Most High sat me down and said, okay, I'm going to show you why I shifted you out of that particular position. Because trust and believe, I was still in my ego to a degree. I was still growing and learning and healing. And so at that time, I was still filling out the applications and trying to send to the state that I had just come from, like, hey, I need my ID. I did it at least 7 different times over a year span of trying to gain one piece of identification, just one state ID, so that I could go to the nurses boards and have my license transferred. It took a whole year before I had an ID in my hand. But what happened during that whole year of me sitting down and not being able to work as a nurse was I learned my craft. My gift was building within me. My gift was forming within me. And because I maintained patience and I persevered and I never gave up on knowing that this was guiding me towards something greater, that was me actually nurturing the seed that had been planted when I prayed for wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. And I also had prayed, which I did not mention, I had also prayed that my gifts would be revealed to me, what I was actually put here to do. And so the seed of that prayer had already been planted. All I needed to do at that point was nurture that seed. And the way that I nurtured that seed was through gratitude and through just knowing that every shift that took place in my life, no matter how chaotic it felt in that moment, was me moving closer to what I had prayed for, was me getting closer to the destination that I had prayed for. And so I knew better to not say, how could I be in this situation? No, it was like, I'm in this situation because I'm almost there. And the good thing about what I do is that I always had to check in, with my spiritual team. Of course I would pull cards on myself, like, okay, where am I going wrong here? And a lot of times I would see, because there was times where I would begin to worry about money. I would begin to worry about, well, how am I going to pay these people for the next month? Or, how am I going to feed my children? Because we was eating out of a microwave for a minute, okay? And so I just saw 11:11 on my clock. That part of myself that wanted to, that part of me, that old part of me wanted to come back up, that fear, that, going back into survival mode. But I said no. And so I kept seeing that that's where I was at. I was in survival mode. I was in this energy of being overly focused in on how I was going to survive. And so I said, no, I got to shift this. So it showed me that my root chakra was off. Okay, so let me start working on my root chakra while all of these changes are happening. Let me get myself back balanced. Let me, do what's necessary to remind myself that there is infinite abundance that is available to me. And there are infinite possibilities on how this thing can be worked out. All I need to do is do my part and be of servitude and to stay in a space of gratitude and to continue to hold the vision. And so I kept building myself. The Most High kept showing me how to build myself and how to, strengthen myself internally. Like that internal foundation was being crafted and created during this time of all of these shifts and transformations that was happening in my life. And so I'm here today, I haven't worked as a registered nurse for 2 years now. And pretty soon, actually, by the end of this month, they just sent me an email saying that, my registered nurse's license, it'll be expired by that time. But I'm not concerned about resubmitting anything because I know what I've been called to do. And so there was a time where I would have gotten anxious because there were moments that I started to catch anxiety, like, well, should I just go back? Because if I do this, if I just go back, I know that they're going to pay me more. Because, of course, with COVID, they're paying nurses, a whole bunch of money because it's such a high risk type of position that you're in. And so my ego would say, just go back. But then the spiritual part of myself, my higher consciousness would say, but that's going to take you backwards. That's going to put you in survival mode. That's going to first have you feeling shameful and guilty about what you're doing because it's not in alignment with your belief system anymore. You don't believe in giving people chemicals anymore. But the only reason why, this is me talking to myself. The only reason why you would go back is for the sake of creating material abundance. Then I had to remind myself, but do you remember when you worked as a nurse for 5.5 years and barely was able to save anything? Because it was really many circumstances was happening in my life at that time that was showing me like, it doesn't matter how much money you make. It can slip through your fingers just as fast if you still have lack mentality. And many people who make lots of money still have that issue of lack mentality. Not the fact that they feel that they lack material wise, because they probably have an overflow of that. But the fact that they feel that they lack the ability to create abundance for themselves outside of doing something that's not in alignment with what they believe in. They feel that there's not enough, creativity that they possess. There's not enough love that they possess, self-love that they possess. There's not enough personal power or strength that they possess in order to step outside of the confounds or the expectations of the world and just take that narrow path to do what your soul is calling you to do. And so this, I wanted to just share my testimony with you all who might be in a position where you feel like, I'm at a crossroads and I don't want to be here. I don't like this job. I'm stressed out every day trying to get to work on time. And I feel like, this person, they have their foot on my neck and they're always badgering me about this or that. And, whatever your position is, now is the time to really take a good look at what's causing you to stay in that. So that's what I'm here to help you to do. So I know I was a little bit long-winded in terms of my testimony, but I feel like that's very relevant here. And so one thing that I've noticed about a lot of the people, I really did want to give thanks for a lot of the people that gave donations, but I think I'm just going to put it in the description box below. I did have one person who was anonymous that did not want to be mentioned. I want to tell you thank you. I'll do that in the description box below. I meant to mention that, but I'll move on. So what does faith look like for you? Because this is all about faith, okay? Biblical text speaks on having that faith of a mustard seed, that faith that'll move a whole mountain. So you're talking about something that's, probably almost no bigger than a grain of salt, damn near, to something that can move an entire mountain, okay? And so that similitude is really... is to show you that type of faith is not easy to acquire when you're doing things based off of ego or based off of materialism or based off of others' expectations of you. That type of faith is not it's not easy to obtain, okay? It takes work, it takes healing, it takes gratitude, it takes perseverance, and it takes personal power to create that much of faith, okay, which seems small, but that seed is the seed that gets planted, okay, and once you're able to obtain that type of faith, that seed is what you're going to nurture, because it doesn't happen overnight. Everything happens in divine timing, exactly when it's supposed to happen. But what your position is to just nurture the seed through your love, through your compassion, through your gratitude, and continuing to build and sharpen those gifts that the Most High has given to you naturally. That's how you nurture the seed. You also nurture the seed by protecting it and ensuring that no weeds are sprouting out, which will be those negative people, those negative voices that come around to tell you, no, you should stay in that position because, look at how much schooling you had to go through, or, that title affords you this and affords you that. And if you go over there, what are you going to have? That's the weeds that you need to cut up out of your life so that you can protect that seed that's growing. Okay. And then also the self-doubt, the fear, okay, the ego, and anything that keeps you in your lower nature, being in survival mode, okay, lack mentality. Those are the weeds that need to be cut out so that as you continue to nurture that divinely given gift, it grows beautifully, okay? And you don't know how big this thing is going to grow. All you know is that it's growing. You're not sitting there watching to try to see how long it's going to take, okay? Because you're no longer confined by time. You're just doing the work. You're just being authentic in your nature. That's what you're really called here to do. That's the first job, the first responsibility that we have here, especially as the chosen, is to just do the work of just being and allowing things to happen naturally and continuing to nurture our gift. If you have a vision and if you know what your purpose is, let's say you know that you're a healer, you know that you're a teacher, you know that you're meant to help the youth in some way, shape, or form. You know that you're meant to counsel or mentor couples in some sort of way. And you know that these things take, in order for you, I'd say, you know that your ultimate goal for doing these things is to be of service to humanity. You know this. You know that that's your purpose. And so for you, your ultimate goal is to build from a space of honor, build from a space of integrity, be able to do your work from a space of compassion, love, okay? And, you want to come from a pure space because the ultimate goal is to heal. The only way that you can heal others is to first be a healer to yourself. And so when you know that you have to possess those types of characteristics in order to carry out whatever you've been called to do, what you know you've been called to do, then you have to first do the work and be okay with accepting the changes that are going to happen in order to get you there. Okay, so I want to see, I'm just going to pull from this deck first. Just randomly pull from this deck first and see what comes out for you all. If there's any messages, and then I'm going to see, I'm going to ask a couple of questions here. Okay, so you have people around you who might have placed some stumbling blocks in your way, especially if you have a divine calling to do something that is of service to humanity. We're in the age of Aquarius, so things are shifting now. And so people are now having to come out of that egotistical, materialistic type of mindset. They're starting to see that that's no longer working. And so you have here, they are experiencing karmic debt for their actions. And so there are people around you who probably know that you have a divine purpose and a calling, who played their role in slowing you down and placing those stumbling blocks in front of you to try to keep you from getting to your divine purpose, okay, or for rising to your divinity. They're receiving their karmic debt. And so if this is something that has held you back, if you are overly focused on the losses that you have taken, then you're being called to redirect your attention to the blessings that you are going to receive as a result of the sacrifices that you had to make. You're being called to redirect your focus, being that this is the first card that came out, okay? Then we have here, you will see very soon what his or her motives are. So you're going to see very clearly, but I feel like this is going to be you seeing past the surface, okay? And so, again, if you have people, if your focus is on why did I take these losses? Why is my boss always picking at me? Why are my coworkers always trying to ostracize me or cause problems for me? Why is, my husband or my spouse not being supportive of my path? Or my business partners not being supportive of my vision? Whatever the case may be, you will see very soon what his or her motives are. But I feel like it's going to be from a higher perspective that you're going to gain that understanding. Okay? And so once you redirect your focus, okay, this is just dealing with the third eye chakra. So once you redirect your focus and begin to listen to your intuition on this, you'll be able to see things from a higher perspective. Okay? Because this is just symptoms of a blocked off third eye chakra, extreme colds, cough, sneezing, polyps. If you're dealing with any of these types of symptoms, that would be that nasal congestion or whatever. That would largely be dealing with your third eye chakra. But then, okay, let's move on. So what I have here at the bottom of the deck is you are stagnating your growth because you won't let him or her go. So if some of you are in certain relationships, whether this is friendships, actual romantic partnerships, marriages, family relationships, there's something about this relationship, he or she, you're going to have to listen to your intuition on this though, in terms of who this is. Your growth is being stagnated because of their energy in your life. And so if you hold on too tightly to those things that are in opposition to your growth, that is you putting the energy out there into the universe that says, I only desire those things that keep me boxed in. I only desire those things that are going to stunt my growth. And so you attract more of those things to you. But once you actually release people, places, or things from your life that are in opposition to your growth, then you are sending the message out there that says, now your hands are open and ready to receive all of those things that are going to be all about uplifting and all about expansion, all about evolution. And that's what you're going to attract to you. And so you might have literally your blockage in terms of you being able to take the leap towards your destiny could largely be because of someone else's influence over how you think, because someone else is creating stumbling blocks for you because they see that you have a passion. They see that you have a gift. Maybe you share too much of your vision with certain people who are not in alignment, or they're not growing themselves. And so they might have done something to you emotionally or mentally to make you not take the path. But you will see very soon what his or her motives are. So the answers you need are going to come. And just know that your growth has been stagnated because they've played their part, but now it's time for you to play your part in recognizing, identifying what this person, place, or thing is, which I sense it as a person here based on the cards, who this is, recognizing the